Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to East Central Missouri and the world, and welcome to the James Strong Show podcast number 229. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making us a part of your day. I appreciate it. This podcast was recorded on the morning of Saturday, July the 31st, from the James Strong Studio in Western St. Charles County. It's been a wonderful week, wonderful weekend, wonderful summer here in East Central Missouri and Mid-America altogether. I mean, we've had some hot spells, but we've had plenty of rain, but not too much rain. I mean, my yard is beautiful. The crops are beautiful. We've had just the perfect mix of rain, heat, dry. I mean, I don't know that the weather could be much better. So to all of you who are in super wet or super dry parts of the country, or super hot or super cold, sorry. Once again, the middle of the country rocks. Today's podcast is going to be on the rock group ZZ Top. Now, as most of you know, the Trophy Wife and I have been trying our best to see the classic rock groups, the aging rock stars, before they finally die. Let's just say that, okay? Let's be honest. And ZZ Top, consisting of Billy Gibbons, Frank Beard, and Dusty Hill. They're still performing, but Dusty Hill passed away this week at the age of 72. So I'm going to do a little bit of a retrospect on them, their music, and a lot of things about ZZ Top that you did not know, okay? Their friendship, how long they've been around, influences on the group, people that the group influenced, why they did what they did. And not only were they a successful rock and roll group, but they were a very, very, very tight-knit group of individuals who did a lot of cool things for a lot of different reasons. Before we get to the essay, though, a couple of things. And then mainly, I just want to talk about some dopey things going on in the country right now. But before we do that, I have to mention that the podcast came back to radio, if you can believe that. Brad Hildebrand, who owns KSLQ 104.5 here in East Central Missouri, he put the podcast on at 10 o'clock last Thursday night, and he's going to put Strong Show podcasts on his station. I think weekdays, 10 o'clock till 11 o'clock is when he's going to run podcasts, sometimes mine, sometimes others. And so if you're an old fan of terrestrial radio, and if you don't necessarily want to listen to the podcast via high tech, if you're a low tech guy and still want to listen to the podcast, tune in. If you're in the area, tune into 104.5 FM around 10 o'clock and see if one of my podcasts is on there. Within 20 miles of Washington, Missouri. If you live within 20 miles of Washington, Missouri, you can probably hear the podcast on KSLQ 104.5 FM. Again, 10 o'clock on weekday nights. Not sure if there's an actual night that I'm going to be on. I think Brad's going to mix and match. Again, before the essay on ZZ Top, three things going on that just have me scratching my head. I've made this statement many times, and perhaps you can always make this statement, that we live in interesting times. We surely do. And maybe we always do. Maybe we always have. But maybe these times just seem to be more interesting than normal because with all the other stuff, we've got the dopey pandemic going on. And now with the Delta variant, rates are going back up, and everybody has their own opinion as to, are they going back up? Are more people getting the virus? Is it just people who are vaccinated, or is it everybody? But people they don't trust, they don't like what the government is doing more and more all the time. And I'm going to go ahead and mention, pardon me, I'm going to go ahead and mention three things that were in the news this week that it's the reason why people don't like, trust, believe the government, because of the things that they say. I shake my head and I think, you couldn't have been thinking this through when you said it. And actually, I'm hoping that the answer is you didn't think this through before you said it. Because if they really do believe some of the things that they've said, it's beyond the fray. Number one, our favorite doctor, not Dr. Anthony Fauci, okay? Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci had a sparring match a couple of weeks ago about Dr. Fauci and the U.S. government's involvement in the Wuhan lab, where the virus may or may not have escaped from, okay? And Dr. Fauci would not answer Senator Paul's questions. When you don't ask a pointed question from a U.S. senator, you've got to assume the worst, okay? I do anyway. Well, there was a document that was sent out to the public showing that, hey, here's proof that the Dr. Fauci and the United States government was not involved at all in the Wuhan lab virus experimentations. But it was redacted. Well, Jim Hoft of the Gateway Pundit released a document today. Maybe it was yesterday. Thanks to Vote Matt for that information. But he released this document, and it was released with the redacted information. And basically, the redacted information shows that Fauci and the government had something to do with funding, or at least participating in, the Wuhan lab. Or not the Wuhan lab, but just testing in general. Now, why would they redact that? And it's a whole thing that maybe this is true, maybe this isn't. Maybe the government, Dr. Fauci, had a hand in the Wuhan lab or another lab or just virus testing. I don't know. But if you don't answer questions and then you redact stuff and then it comes up as fishy, where there's smoke, there's fire. Had a conversation with Vote Matt podcast, by the way, if you are interested in conspiracy theories, etc. But basically, this doesn't show, it doesn't prove anything, because it's not a smoking gun that proves that Dr. Fauci and the U.S. government was involved in any way in the Wuhan lab. But there's a bunch of information that was redacted that leads one to, I don't know, what would you say, suspect that it could have been. And if they were, why don't they just admit, you know what, yeah, we were involved in funding with that virus, and things got out of hand, somebody screwed up, it escaped, shame on us. Here's how it happened. Here's what we're going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again, and leave it at that. Done. I don't know why they have to lie. People say the government lies. The government hides. And it's because they do. Number two, local St. Louis politics. Tashara Jones, who is the mayor of St. Louis, she's the self-prescribed progressive mayor of St. Louis. Politicians, in my opinion, and in fact, this was the main reason why I was not a fan of President Trump. Politicians who represent a city represent all the citizens of the city, whether they voted for them or not. Same with the president, same with the senator, same with the congressman, same with the alderman, same with anything. When you are elected to a position, you represent all the people of the city. And it's your job to make sure that you do the best for the city and all residents. Tashara Jones is not doing that. Now, to her credit, she's living up, or trying to live up so far, to all of her campaign promises. As far as that goes, you have to respect her. But one of her campaign promises, she promises reparations to all, you know what, let me quote this because I don't want to misquote her. To all descendants of enslaved people. That's what she promises. The mayor of St. Louis is saying, you know what, we're going to be the first city to pay reparations to the descendants of enslaved people. Now you talk about divisive. The city of St. Louis is, for those of you who don't know, about one half black, one half white. I mean, there's other people there too. I mean, there's Hispanic people, there's Asian people, there's lots of other people. But basically it's 50% black, 50% white, okay? Now for the mayor, for the mayor of the whole city to say, okay, we're going to give the black ones money, and the inference is, and take it from the white ones, you either have no idea what you're trying to do, or you have every idea of what you're trying to do. And if you've thought this through, planned it out, and are going to go ahead and try to enact something like this, taking money from one group whose skin color happens to be this, and give that money to another group whose skin color happens to be that. Wow. Okay. So what does that mean? If she wants to pay reparations to the descendants of enslaved people, does that mean the white guy who's a garbage man earning $20,000 a year gives money to the millionaire black man? Is that what that means? It kind of looks like it. That, my friends, is just divisiveness. It's stirring the pot. It's stirring hate. If we're ever going to get together and all sing from the same sheet of music and make things best for everyone, this kind of stuff has to go. Number 3, energy. Now, those of you, I'm sure you've heard about the electric cars, and by the year, depending on the car maker, I think GM is not going to make electric or gasoline cars after 2035. Jaguar is not going to make electric cars after 2025. In 4 years, there will be no more Jaguars that are gasoline powered. And we're going to electric cars. We're going away from fossil fuels and towards renewable energy. I get that. I think it's a good thing, by the way, if you do it slowly but surely and not everything overnight. Massachusetts, Boston in particular, and other cities in Massachusetts are trying to outlaw new homes built that aren't all electric homes. They cannot be heated with natural gas. They can't be heated with oil. They have to be heated with electricity. Now, in theory, that's fine, because in theory, electric can be a clean burning alternative. And forget about if you're a fan of or a proponent of climate change, okay? Global warming. The fact of the matter is we do have climate change, but then we've always had climate change. And the fact of the matter is we do have global warming. The Earth is getting warmer. Now, what we don't know is that have to do with the fact that we drive SUVs instead of walking to work or driving electric cars. We don't know that, okay? But if you make the mandate that all new homes have to be electric, and if you make the mandate that all cars have to be electric, think about this. Right now, the grid cannot handle what they're proposing. And there's no real plans to build infrastructure to support what they're proposing. And the other thing, if you think about it, if a big giant solar flare hits, and I forget the number, but there's a number that, every now and then we have solar flares all the time, and they knock out electricity substations, etc., all the time. But they're not massive, and they're not huge outages. There's a little bit here, a little bit there. They can get them back up and running after a short period of time. But if we have a huge solar flare, as we've had in the past, quite often we've had in the past, and it knocks out the grid, we have no way to heat our homes. We have no way to drive. We have no way to get around if we're all electricity, okay? To take something like fossil fuels, which we have fueled our lifestyles with forever, and to turn the page and eliminate them immediately is ridiculous and short-sighted. Do we need to make that transition slowly but surely? Sure, of course we do. But as of right now, and I'll take Massachusetts as an example, there's not enough